We're going to be looking at the theme natural and powerful, and I picked the poems Sonnet 29 versus Love's Philosophy because both poets present love as natural and powerful. However, Browning presents it as personal and intense, whereas Shelley presents it as universal and persuasive. Sonnet 29, words like twine and bud, which shows natural imagery, love grows and it develops, and Love's Philosophy, the fountains mingle with a river, and it shows that everything is connected in nature. What are all these kissings worth? If thou kiss not me, a rhetorical question has been used here in its persuasive tone. So if I had to compare this in the exam, I would say Browning presents love as deeply personal, whereas Shelley presents it as something that shouldn't happen naturally.
Learn with Miss BB and smash the AOs.
Before we even look at the answer, we need to be really clear on what the exam is asking us to do. This is an AQA poetry comparison question. This question is worth 30 marks, plus 4 marks for spelling, punctuation and grammar. So everything you write needs to be analytical and precise. Number one, this is really important. You are not just analysing one poem, you must compare. So in the exam, you will be given one poem, and the other poem is from an anthology that you have to come in and know. Structure that you should follow. I always teach it like this. Keep it simple and clear. Include an introduction, a paragraph 1 where you're comparing idea 1, paragraph 2 where you're comparing idea 2, and a conclusion. Now we are going to look at a past exam question. So the question here is, compare how poets present love as powerful. So the key terms here are love and powerful. In the exam, you will be given one poem, and then you have to compare that poem to another poem with the same themes. So the themes here are natural and powerful. You need 2 ideas from one poem, 2 ideas from the poem that you have revised, and they must be compared throughout, not written separately. So remember that word, compare. Make sure you're using those comparative techniques or devices throughout. What gets you the AOs? AO1, clear argument and comparison. AO2 is your methods, your writer's methods. So this is language, structure, imagery. And AO3 is your contextual factors. So you can make links to Romanticism or the Victorian era. I want you to take a screenshot of this slide because this is your revision checklist. So for this theme, love being natural and powerful, I have looked and compared the poem Sonnet 29 with Love's Philosophy because I felt that they were both quite good comparative poems. They both present love as natural and powerful force, with Browning as personal and obsessive, Shelley is persuasive and universal. So these poems are a good comparative poems that we can look at. I'm going to go through the essay. So this is a model, and I will show you how the student has met the grading criteria. So first of all, this student has done something really well straight away. They answer the question directly. They mention both poets. They compare from the start. They say both poets present love as powerful, and that's their clear argument, their AO1. Then, this is the key, they show the difference. Browning, personal and consuming, Shelley, universal and persuasive. And that's exactly what examiners want. They want similarity and they want differences. And then they have looked at context. They also bring in this at the end. They mention a Victorian versus romantic. That pushes them into a higher mark. Paragraph 1. Now let's break this down. Straight away they compare both poets. Both present love as natural, but that "but" is doing a lot of work. It shows the difference. For the AO2, this is where the marks really come from. They embed quotes. Thoughts do twine, fountains mingle, they zoom in on verbs, twine. Entanglement, mingle, which shows unity. This is a strong AO2, they're analysing language, not just spotting it. They don't just mention imagery, they explain it, and that's the difference between a grade 5 and a grade 8 or a 9. For the context, they link it to Victorian love, which is personal, emotional, and then they link romantic love to nature and harmony. This is thoughtful, not forced, and that's what we want. If you want top marks, always zoom into one word and explore it. Paragraph 2. This paragraph is really strong, so let's break it down. They continue the argument, love is powerful, but now they shift the focus. Browning, emotional and consuming, Shelley, logical and persuasive. This shows progression and they're not repeating ideas. First person pronoun, my, shows personal internal emotion. They talk about rhetorical question, persuasion, trying to convince the reader. They use high level thinking. They're not just spotting techniques, they're explaining effect. That's what gets you into the top bands. They talk about context. They link it again to romantic versus Victorian ideas, and notice how it's woven in and not just dumped in at the end. And that's what you need to make sure you're doing with your paragraphs. It's all about weaving everything in together seamlessly. So this is what we call a conceptual argument. The ideas run through the whole paragraph. Everything is nicely embedded. Conclusion. This student has a clear summary of the argument, direct comparison, they've made references to methods, and they include the context. They don't just repeat, they refine the argument. They show similarity, both powerful, difference, personal versus universal. They link everything back to methods and meaning and context, and that's exactly what examiners reward you for. If you do anything in your exam, do this please. Be clear, compare throughout, zoom into words, link to context naturally. If you can write like this, clear argument, detailed analysis and consistent comparison, you are moving into the top bands.